So we're going to go over some values with ABGs just to give you an idea of how these changes are made or why these changes are made. So let's say our pH is 717, and let's say our CO2, let's say it is 80. We will say our PO2, we'll say it is 60. We'll kind of go from there just to make it kind of simple. So we can see here that our CO2 is a little high. Of course, our normal values would be 35, 45. Especially with babies on an oscillator, we try to stay within a median of 50. So anywhere in the 50s would be acceptable, especially for premature babies. So what we're going to do here, the oscillator itself, so the oscillator itself, so like I had said in the prior videos, so this is all a CO2 issue, all right? So there are two things that we can actually change, which would be our amplitude or our hertz. So you can actually change both of these. It doesn't have to be one or the other, and sometimes one thing works better for one baby than it does the other. So if our CO2 is high, we want to try to drive that CO2 down so that our pH is driven back up. So our amplitude, let's just say if it was 24 and our hertz would be 10, we could turn our amplitude up. And usually if it's high, we would probably go by at least 2 or 3. So just say like 26. So you're going to increase that amplitude to get rid of CO2. Or you could decrease our hertz to say like 8 to try to decrease the CO2. If you're working on oxygenation, and say like your PO2 is low, we only have really two things that we can change for the PO2. So your oxygenation would be FiO2. Alright, so if you need to increase your oxygen demand or content, then of course you could increase that. So if you're like on 40%, you could actually increase that to 50% or more, whatever you want. But you can also increase the MAP, or the mean airway pressure. Okay? So if our MAP, let's just say if it is 8, and we want to increase, and let's just say actually our FiO2 at this point, if it's high settings, so let's say so it's on 80%. So if our FiO2 is on 80% and our mean airway pressure is at 8, that probably means that we need to go up on our mean airway pressure because the demand of oxygen is too much. So we need to actually increase this probably by 2 to 10. Now you can increase by 1 or 2. The main thing with these babies are they are very resilient, and small changes actually go a long way. So you don't want to start increasing and decreasing a bunch of other settings because you're not going to know what actually had the major effect with your ABGs at the end, and what actually worked for that baby. And again, you may end up turning around and get another blood gas from these settings, and now your baby is severely alkalotic, or above 745, and your CO2 is like in the 30s, which is still not, it is not good for a baby to have that much of a dramatic change between CO2. But if we stop there.